Hi everyone, it's Lee here from Click Studios and thanks for your interest in our software. This video you're about to watch is very similar to the online demonstrations we do for our customers, where we will first run through the core of the product, which is password vaulting. We'll then delve into some of the other features which leverage off this vault. In the description section of this video on YouTube, we'll have some links to other videos which explain these features in greater depth. Otherwise, you'll be able to find them on our Click Studios website. This is the longest video we have and it runs for about 15 minutes. All other videos we try to keep as short as possible. So let's start with the Password Vault. Passwordstate is a web-based product that you install on-premise, and this is the interface that your users will see when they first log in. Everything in the product is permissions-based, not only access to password credentials, but also many features as well. As an example, all of these menus you see here are permission-based, so if you don't want a certain user to have access to a certain menu, you can remove it completely from them. This navigation tree you see here is showing the password list and folders that my account has been given access to, but this view will generally look different for each of your users as it is all permission-based. Permissions can be applied either by a user account or via security groups. We support both Active Directory accounts and security groups, and we also have local accounts and security groups which are not dependent on Active Directory at all. A password list is just a logical collection of password records, and a folder is a way of logically grouping together related password lists. We support two types of password lists, one which is shared, and as an administrator of a shared list, I have access to this menu where I can apply permissions for other users or security groups. There's three types of permissions we can grant. View and modify are pretty self-explanatory, but if you are an administrator of the list, this will give you access to this menu which allows you to manage settings on the password list. For example, you can grant permissions and run reports. To demonstrate how easy and quick this is, I'll quickly grant access for Louise Kelsey for view permissions, and I'll also give Matt Day modify permissions. If I now click save, they'll be able to see this password list next time they log into Passwordstate. If I go back in there now as well, I can also search for security groups, and I'll give the finance team admin rights to this password list. And as previously mentioned, this will give them full control and they'll be able to change permissions and settings themselves. We also have the concept of private password lists. It's completely private and not even security administrators can get access to it. You'll notice that if I try to grant someone else access to my own private list, the permissions option is grayed out. A security administrator is another role in our software which gives you access to this administration tab for administering all the backend settings of Passwordstate. Generally, you wouldn't have many users with access to this role. With permissions on shared password lists, this can be done in a couple of ways. Our default permission model is where you grant access to each password list, so when you do this, different teams can have access to different password lists inside the folders. We've also got the concept of propagating permissions down from the folder to all nested password lists beneath it. If you have a team that requires the same level of access to all password lists, it's simpler to propagate permissions down from the parent folder. If we take a look at the permissions on the folder that is propagating down, you'll notice they match the permissions for all nested password lists. I'll open up two of them now to show you that the same permissions are applied for Lee and Mark for the password lists underneath this folder. We also have even more granular access if required, and by this I mean you can grant access to individual records within a password list. When you do this, the user will only see the individual records you've given them access to, and the rest of the passwords in the list will not be visible to them. On password lists, we also have many different settings and fields which can be selected. I won't go into all the settings here because there are many of them to choose from, but an example is you can assign a different password generator and different password strength policies for your password lists. On the Customize Fields tab, you can see there are different types of fields you can associate with a list as well. Depending on your requirements, it's quite flexible with the metadata you can associate with your password credentials. And as an example, here is a password list configured for credit card information, and as you can see, there is no standard username or password fields. It's been configured just to store credit card information only. Once you have created some password lists, then it's a matter of getting some data into them. There's multiple ways this can be done, either adding manually, you can import via a CSV, you can use our API and script adding in passwords, or we have a feature called Discovery Jobs which can automate adding in passwords for you. Once you have some data in a password list, you can then see the sorts of features available for individual records under this Actions menu. For example, copy and linking passwords between lists and viewing the history of all changes to a record are available from this Actions menu. In your navigation tree here, you can drag and drop objects around to logically group things. To demonstrate this, I can drag a password list into another folder, or I can even drag a folder with some nested password lists into another folder. I can also drag this folder into the root of passwords home, and then if I refresh the screen, you'll see that it's now placed the IT department folder in alphabetical order. We also have a reasonable amount of search capabilities as well. For example, I can search for password lists or folders directly in the navigation tree. So I search for private here, it will filter in the navigation tree on my private password list. We also have a global search up the top right hand corner of your page, and in here you can search for either passwords or hosts. To demonstrate this, I'll search for Facebook and the results are displayed in the passwords home search box. Wherever you see an informational icon like this, it will give you a search guide that you may want to read to help you power up your search terms. You can also search from Passwords Home, which will search through all of the password lists you have access to, or you can search directly within a folder or even just in a password list. For compliance reasons, we have a lot of auditing in our software. Just about everything you do in Passwordstate adds an auditing record, with over 110 different types of events being tracked. In this auditing area is where you can do real-time reporting on the data with many different filtering options. You can also create scheduled reports based on this data, which you'll find under the Reports menu on the left-hand side. To do this, you would just choose the Custom Auditing Report and then set the appropriate options, and you'll be emailed the report on the schedule of your choice. In addition to reporting on auditing data, we have these other predefined reports available in the administration area. These can be run directly through the user interface, scheduled and emailed to you, or executed via the API. We have many different types of authentication options for the product as well, and to demonstrate this, I'll change the system setting to single sign-on and log out and back in again. You'll notice now this has logged me directly in by passing through my Windows credentials from the desktop into Passwordstate. You can have different authentication options for different sets of users, and this is achieved by using a user account policy. You can find this here in the administration area. A user account policy is very similar to an Active Directory group policy, where you specify a bunch of different settings and apply it to the users who are to receive the policy. So as an example here, I've created a new user account policy and I'll set the authentication type to be RSA. If I then save that policy and go into the permissions, I'll just apply it to Louise Kelsey, and then the next time she logs in, she'll be forced to use RSA to authenticate to the website. Now that's most of the major features for the password vaulting side of things, and I'll now talk a little bit about some of the more advanced features that integrate or leverage from the password vault. I'll start with password resets. We support doing resets on many different systems now, and we have an extensible architecture that allows you to create your own password reset scripts if it's for a system that we currently don't have a default script for. Apart from Active Directory accounts where we just use native .NET code to perform the reset, all other resets are done with PowerShell scripts. It's a really flexible language that allows you to do all sorts of things, including SSHing into different devices. If you need to write your own script for your own system, you can simply clone one of our scripts and modify it as appropriate. Performing a reset can be done in one of two ways. If I open up this password record here and manually make a change to the password and hit save, it will queue the reset up and go out and change it sometime within the next minute. Or a scheduled reset will automatically occur when this expiry date value is reached. This expiry date will be recalculated based on what you have set under the Reset Options tab, and as you can see, this password record is set to reset once every 30 days at 8 PM at night. If for some reason the reset was unable to successfully execute, for scenarios like the remote machine is not powered on, it will retry once per day at the same time until a successful reset occurs. Only when a successful reset has happened will a new expiry date be calculated. We also support quite a few different types of account discoveries now. If I access my account discoveries now from my tools menu, you can see we have a number of different discovery jobs for a variety of different systems. If I open up my local Windows account discovery job, which I've pre-configured, you'll notice that there's many different settings in here and filtering options available to you. I won't go over them all now, but basically a discovery job can be configured to discover accounts out on your network, import them directly into a password list, and automatically set them up with a reset schedule. We do recommend initially selecting the simulation mode option, as this will just email you the results of the discovery job without touching any data in the database. It's just there to give you a comfort level of what is being discovered on your network, and when you're happy with that, you can disable the simulation mode. With each of these discovery jobs, it can save you an enormous amount of time finding where these privileged accounts are being used on your network and importing them into Passwordstate so you can manage them properly. Another feature we have to help you automate things is our own API. We have two APIs available, one that uses API keys and the other which is integrated with Windows, which doesn't require any keys at all. We have many different types of API calls you can make in your scripts, and these can be found under the Help menu. Things like adding and retrieving passwords or deleting them, or maybe even working with password lists or folders. You can integrate the API with any sort of scripting language that you're familiar with. We have a mobile client too, which is built right into the software, and you can access this by simply appending /mobile to your Passwordstate URL. Alternatively, you can install the mobile client separately to help protect your system, and a lot of our customers would place it in a lockdown network like their own DMZ. To show you the mobile client working, I've got some software on my computer that is connected to my Windows phone. I'll simply open my mobile website and log in with my username and predefined PIN that I've set. There are many different two-factor authentication options you can also set for the mobile client, and now that I'm logged in, you can retrieve any password that I have access to. Our browser extensions which we have available are used to save website logins and then autofill those logins when you return to the website. The convenience of this is you can have good strong passwords for your websites, and Passwordstate makes it easy to log in. If we have a look at my private password list, I've saved a couple of different social media logins already. If I now manually browse to Facebook or just click this link here, you'll notice that it has pre-populated my username and password for me automatically. These credentials are being extracted directly from the Passwordstate vault, so this makes it much more secure than just allowing your browser to save these logins. And lastly, for the demonstration, I'll show you our remote session launcher. This feature allows you to establish connections to Windows or Linux machines without the need to enter in a username or password. Once again, it securely pulls these credentials from the Passwordstate vault and passes them through to the remote session. We support sessions for RDP, SSH, TeamViewer, Telnet, BNC, and SQL Server. To make these connections, it's as simple as selecting your host and then clicking on the Launch button. So to quickly perform a demonstration of how this feature works, I've just performed a RDP session into a Windows 10 machine, a SSH session into a Linux machine, and a SQL connection into a SQL database. That concludes this demonstration, and you are more than welcome to contact us on support@clickstudios.com.au if you need any more advice on any aspect of our software. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video.